in any way possible peacefully.
I was playing with some musicians, some friends of mine yesterday, and we were playing this song like this, and just jamming along, and a policeman said, "I'll write some more lyrics," and so I said, "You write some lyrics," to the security guards, and one of them started to, and he wrote the first lines, a red hat called Dave, and we're going to go and try and find him now, so he can sing his song back to us. He wrote, trees are falling while protesters are calling for mercy. Chainsaws gleaming while trees are screaming for mercy. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Need a job to feed my children. Pay the mortgage, pay the bills, build a road that always kills. And what are we doing here? What are we doing here? All day long I stand in the smoke, I can feel I'm starting to choke, and £4 an hour, it's a fucking joke. And what doing here? What are we doing here? There's 2 more verses.
Each verse wrote by security guards?
Yep, or co-written by different members of different teams. There's Red Team 7, there's Team 7 who wrote the first few verses, and then there's Portsmouth and Southampton team that wrote the last 2 verses. And a guy called Nick who just handed me a verse right at the end, and his verse was, diggers digging, no sorry that's wrong tune, diggers digging all day long, the sound we hear their killing song, chainsaws, hacksaws, blades and knives, trees the victims of their cutting slice. And what are we doing here? The last verse was written by a guy called Jim, his mates from Portsmouth, and it goes like this. Shattered ambitions, scattered dreams, doing a job with no self-esteem. We want a job with no more destruction. We want job satisfaction, and we're gonna take the relevant action, and we're not gonna wait for divine intervention. What are we doing here? 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 Classic.
Is that the finished product now?
That's the finished product. There may be another verse if we can get one out of the police. They said that they were jealous and that they wanted to write a verse. And Brave Security were also miffed that they hadn't been asked. So they wanted to write their probably very boring little verse that I may stick in there. Cool, thank you, Dave.
That's okay.
I'm sorry that they've been boring about it, because that was a very good song. We got to Dave the Red Hat, who wrote the first verse and a half of the song, and he's very proud of the first verse and a half of this song. And he'd been told by his superior, his Yellow Hat, that he was not allowed to say that he'd written the song and that he wasn't allowed to be cheerful about it. He wasn't allowed to sing it. Yesterday it was like, I wrote this song, lads, what do you think of this? And he was really into it. And, you know, he did. He started the song off and he wasn't allowed to sing it because the bosses came down and they said no.
To make Brussels the city to live again.
We need your money so we can oppress our people and buy more jails and buy more bullets. Sir?
not having nothing against the law, they have been arrested just because they oppose the government. For me, it's only dictator that acts like that.
Message you could give to UK activists who might be watching this?
This battle for As Valley is very important. It's very symbolic, and we can win this battle.
Travellers have got no rights. These babies, the same as these children growing up now, they've got no rights.
Yeah. I don't want to go where they want to put me. They just will put me in prison. Well, I don't want to go, in there, if they're going to do that. That's why I bought this, because I want to come here because I like the place.
This government, what we got in now, promised the gypsies, if they found land and they purchased a bit of land, they would help them licence it to keep them off the road. So I ended up with the property what I've got now, which is for the family, in order that my children could go to school and have education.
Got a place that they're not moved about. This is why we buy this land. And the kids can, if anything happens to us, they've got a place to be on. And this is what we've actually bought it for.
Everywhere you couldn't travel the roads no more because we was travelling before we stopped on the site. But it got a bit ridiculous. We'd sort of pull up at a place, say, like for a day, and then you'd have a notice served on you. You'd have to be moved within 7 days. And time you got all your china down and everything packed down, it was time to move again. And it was just sort of becoming an headache because no matter where you went, you was asked to move on.
He told us to go and buy land of our own, we'll be okay. And when we did go and do it, look what they're doing now.
We still ain't allowed to stop.
We're still ain't allowed to stop now. Now what are you going to do?
In spite of the fact it's greenbelt, in spite of the fact that normally development wouldn't be allowed, that it is a better thing, what we are proposing to establish, than what is there at the moment and what might develop from it.
Now he's taken our land from us, given us leasehold, but we've got to pay him £14,000 for the leasehold, and he wants to give us £250 for the ground.
How many gypsies on Swan Farm have you actually got £14,000 to give them? Right, no one. Right, so so the site's gone, isn't it? Right. End of the day, it make a dear little mini site in one corner of it for about 3 caravans for a couple of old residential people, and then they have the rest of the ground. And their excuse would be then, we've got to get our money back, we've got to do something with it, and they will sell it off to building concerns.
I'm not going to go there. If all my money's laid in my property, and you walk in and offer me £150, where am I going to get the money to do it again? Because you've took everything.
Even the title selling.
Done the best we can in the circumstances to enable people to stay at a place that's been their home, in some cases for up to 20 years, even if they have to move home, it's actually within the same piece of land, and that we're not making life harder for them financially than is avoidable.
I've not been offered a plot on the new site because they reckon my children are vindictive. And they want me either take a council site that I don't want because I came off of a council site when I bought this place, or an house. And I don't want a house because I've got a pony that my boy shows. And with a house you can't show park and you can't have a pony.
What I'm hoping will happen is there'll actually be a coincidence between any enforced removal from the site and a suitable housing offer being made to them. But that's the state of play at the moment, and those proceedings are just about to be served on those people.
And then really, not being horrible, I'm not used to a house. I wouldn't like it in a house, because it'd be like a prison to me. I'm used to being out in the open. I'm used to, as I am now, I'm fine. I'm happy as I am now, and I like to stay in my culture.
Come around, boys. Come around, Rob.
When I get on this new plot of ground, I'm not going to be allowed to have 2 trailers. But if you lived in an house, there's nothing to stop you having a caravan outside your door. Travellers all live together. Their families all stop and live together. They're not allowed to do that. Because when my boy grows up and he gets married, he can't come and stop with me. He's got to move off somewhere else. He's got to go on a council site. Or in an house.
We can't afford to go there either on our own. We always have to go in pairs to make sure that if one of us gets into trouble, we can always escape without injury.
All the media ever gets is one side of the story, the police side or the council side. No one ever comes onto Swan Farm and says, right, is this what really happened? Or what do you think about what's going on here? No one's never come in and asked us. So I got on the phone to this man who was supposed to have written this article and wanted to know where he got all his information from. So what are we supposed to do? Conform to what the council and the government wants us to do is live in houses, which we've never done, Roger. How can you ask anybody to do that? How would you like the council to come out and say, well, you've got to come out of your house and you've got to live in a caravan? What would you do?
Will you talk to us? On the record?
I'll be pleased to talk to you.
Would you? That'd be good. Because we've not spoken to you before, have we?
No.
You've not phoned us before, have you?
No, but I just feel sickened that you people are so frightened to come onto Swan Farm.
When we look fed up? Yeah, no, you're not supposed to be happy. That's it. But look into the camera. That's it. Right. Just do one more.
So they shouldn't print this, it's not true. You've got to get in touch with the council and prove this, haven't you? I mean, that is out of orders, look. Set to agree. Oh, they're set to agree, are they? I've got 7 Oaks number. We should have given me this earlier. I'd have said, well, look, I'll give you £1,000 back for good luck money.
Can I have another look at that?
Yeah, agreed to pay out 268,000 of our council tax towards revamping. Oh, they're going to pay towards the site, not give it to us individually. Oh, another is coming from Kent County, I guess. Well, why do they want our 14 grand then? If they're having all this money,
good question.
Why do they want our money?
I think the thing that does stick out is obviously I didn't know about the £14,000 that they've got to fork out, which does seem extremely unfair on the face of it, because they're actually giving up land for a pittance. They're moving on to a site and having to fork out a small fortune that very few people can afford.
Going to have an £88,000 security fencing around me to keep me in. What have I got to be kept in for? I ain't in a prison, or is it going to become a prison?
Once she's riding these horses, because a horse can spook any time it likes. There's no such thing as a good horse. It's only got a chucker over top and hit these, that'll go right through and kill her. And who's it going to be down to? Me. Not Bill Forrester. It'll be to me.
I wouldn't see I don't want to own no property in England at all.
Well, that's the alternative, is that we start saying to our people all over the country, well, we'll all go back on the road.
Yeah, and I will go back on the road. They're not going to stop me going back on the road.
If there's someone out there, ask them what we can do. Because we're at the last tip. I don't know what I can do. I will do anything. What can I do? I trusted this council. We went along with this council, and they betrayed us all the way.
DIY culture. It's not just about protesting and fighting back, it's about creating alternatives. In this film, we'll be looking at the world of music, visiting a band, a sound system, and that time-honoured DIY tradition, a free festival. Yeah, very MTV, mate. Now, can we get on with this? And what about this fancy headgear? I can't handle it.
We were just in a pub one day, having a drink, and we sort of talked about how nice it'd be to have a festival. And at the time we just thought festivals just kind of happened and existed, but we found out that they don't at all.
You have what is called a revolution.
I think it's really excellent that our festival is like mainly run by women, and last year it was all totally women. But it's good. It's really empowering for women to do it.
With commercial events, there's quite often the individual who benefits from it. An individual will set it up, an individual will organise it and pay people to organise it for them. With the free circuit, it's much more a community thing. Everybody gets involved in it, everybody can do something.
Anyone can come, it's not a ticket thing, it's not about being a certain age or being a certain type of person.
What I say is where there's a will, there's a way. What we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is DIY culture. It started in the 80s. It's all about free festivals, squads, travellers, protesting and all that sort of thing. But what happened was in the 90s, the Criminal Justice Act tried to criminalise all these things that we've just talked about. And what's happened is that people have got together like never before. They're creating free entertainment. They're creating free information networks. They're creating free everything. All this is put on for free. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
I would love to see festivals started up around the country because I think it's just a really good thing to do.
Get your arse in gear, really. Don't just sit about and just be handed something on a plate, because it's not what it's about.
We thought we'd take a load of our mates and go up to a free party that's being held in the Luton area by a group of people called Exodus.
3 years ago, the Exodus Collective squatted an abandoned hospice just outside Luton. They battled with the council, renovated the building, and now it's a thriving housing co-op. Once a fortnight, Exodus put on free parties for between 2,000 and 10,000 people. They're some of the most kicking dudes in the country, and we thought we'd go along and check one out. People escort the sound system to the party venue to stop the police taking it away. According to the police, Exodus parties have reduced drink-related crime in the area, and on one occasion even helped stop a riot.
Fuck man, there's lots of people here, man. Are we shooting off like
Well, here we are, this is where the Exodus convoy meets up in an industrial estate just outside of Luton. The atmosphere here is completely mental. As you can see, there's thousands of cars filled with more thousands of people inside them, waiting to go off for a massive party, and we're here as well, so hopefully we'll see you up there. Alright there, we just come in here and broke into a warehouse, just quite near where we left the convoy, and everyone's setting everything up. They're putting up lights, they're putting up stack, they're clearing all the crap that was in the warehouse before. It's a crime this is an empty space, but at least it's getting put to good use now.
The money was put into the bucket, so the sound, and the money that was collected was put back into the sound, so gradually built up stack system.
This is a 1 in a million thing, you know what I mean? People just go there and really do have a party.
This
Précision. On laisse la dictature, c'est le tabac noir. On laisse la rue noire. Pas boire, plus boire. Physical, 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 physical. La science de la mama, physical, physical. Comme on va le voir, on a dans le monde de
There's nothing illegal about this. What is illegal is that people pay good money to go into nightclubs and do this.
It just becomes a deeper thing. It's not just about having a good time, it's about getting things together and creating a good vibe that everyone enjoys and can feel a part of.
Zion Train used to make and distribute their own records in true DIY style. Then they signed up to a mainstream record company. So we went along to one of their gigs to find out if they'd sold out. We're about to step into the echelons of Zion Train's tour in the middle of England. As you can hear, it's thumping away in the background. It's DIY culture, bringing us DIY music, although they've gone a bit mainstream now. They're getting on the inside and putting out a positive vibe. And this is what it's all about. Let's go.
The fact that Zion Train set up our own studio, set up our own recording label to put out our own music, meant that we weren't going to sign a contract with somebody else lightly. We were independent, doing it ourselves. And I think that ultimately gives you more power.
You're in a position now where there's like 5 big multinationals controlling the whole sketch with the music industry. There's 6 now. Yeah. There's 6. I got my facts wrong. Wake up. All right, so there's 6 right now. You're sort of working
with Time Warner.
With Warner. They're big buggers, aren't they?
Yeah.
What are they? Say that again.
Arms manufacturers and completely cold-hearted capitalist pigs.
Why are you working with these people?
They spread a message much further than we ever could, and we care very much that we are able to provide an alternative to Quentin Tarantino, Ice-T, the Fugees, and everyone else who wants to glorify death and sex and money, because that's not what we're about. We've had chart entries, and we've had people who have never heard of Newbury or Reclaim the Streets or anything like that, writing to us going, what is this about? We send them a wobbler, and then they're saying to us, I've joined the Animal Liberation Front, or had a brilliant time at Reclaim the Future in Liverpool. Now, we're not going to get all evangelical, but we do what we can.
This film has looked at many different examples of people taking the ethics of DIY culture and combining it with making music. Punk rock reckoned music could change the world. All DIY culture is saying you can start by simply making a difference. Get off your butt and do it yourself. Excuse me. Sound like that anyway. Cheers.
The English oak. Its majesty once revered, now seen as little more than an obstacle needing to be cleared. The respect it once commanded has disappeared, along with the respect and pride its homeland once enjoyed. England, what has become of you? The ground shook as the mighty oak hit the earth. The sound echoed darkly across the land. From no one knows where, two horses appeared. Seemingly wild and free, they wore an air of magic about them. They were not scared off by the day-glow army or the chainsaws wailing like frenzied banshees. Maybe they knew these trees. Maybe they'd sheltered beneath them. Their concern was unmistakable. They made their way to the dying root of the mighty oak. An echo from the past. Our ancestors worshipped trees. They understood their supreme importance. How many of us have forgotten? How much we have lost? How few still believe that a tree has a spirit? This land, once a vast forest, reduced to isolated strips of woodland, and even these are under attack. Trees are like the lungs of the planet. They free oxygen for us to breathe. Not only are these trees disappearing, they will soon be replaced by traffic, which will take oxygen and release poisons into the air. What madness is this? England, what has become of you?
I'd been followed by police cameras all the way back from a service station on foot, all the way back to my flat. And it was at that point I thought, hang on a second, this police camera can actually look directly into my flat. I realised that it was a way of selectively policing, where you can choose what you want to get involved with. who you want to follow and what you want to do about it. And tonight I'm hoping to maybe hoist them by their own petard. In effect, I'm hoping that they will believe that there's an 8-foot alien walking down Old Christchurch Road, and that that they're going to have to check it out. Everyone keep really cool now. Okay, start walking back. Slowly. Get down and watch this. Look to the left. Stand up as you inspect. The CCTV is pointing directly at us.
It's easy to close my eyes and dream of a world full of trees, reaching for the space to grow free. But when I look up, all I see are clear cuts and one family of seedlings growing chemically. How can I believe that they can replace the trees that have lived and died for thousands of years? How can I explain to a daughter or son I wasn't strong enough enough to save the ancient ones.
Hooray for our band of happy ragged folk, telling old stories and fireside jokes, living for the music, the love and the laugh. Hooray for the riffraff. Rafters and mousies, rebels and tramps, travelers who ramble from camp to camp, bow dodgers and swagmen, vandals and rounders, wandering hobo town to towner. Come join the circle dance of jolly fools, squatters and crusties who make their own rules, riverbed beggars, carousers and thieves, our only motto, anarchy. Hooray for our band of happy ragged folk, telling old stories and fireside jokes, living for the music, the love and the laugh. Hooray for the riffraff. Migrating drifters, buskers on the streets, minstrels and gypsies with no shoes on our feet. Oh,
Don't move your truck! Shut the truck off, man!
Frank and barrel vagabonds laying down the dead road. Street bikers and diggers, wobblies and the like, monkey wrenching saboteurs, wooden shoe Luddite.
Your children are being robbed of their heritage as these trees come down. It's total greed, and I'm opposed to greed.
Hooray for our band of happy ragged folk, telling old stories and fireside jokes, living for the music, the love and the laugh. Hooray for the riffraff.
The collective spirit of community that's evolved up here has been nothing like anything that exists down below. This is truly the Cascadia Free State. This is a whole other realm. This has nothing to do with the Babylonian United States principles of individuality and everyone for themselves and greed. This is about as opposite of that as I've ever been around.
We come in all colors, stripes and spots, raging grannies and punkers, rebel in our lot. We don't care what we look like and we don't wear underwear. Go ahead and stare, we are everywhere. Hooray for our band of happy ragged folk, telling old stories and fireside jokes, living for the music, the love and the laugh. Hooray for the
Have you ever heard of the snooze?
Of course I bloody have, mate.
People in Hong Kong are reading it, and Germany.
Tells it like it really is.
I get it every week.
We need something like this in Brighton, like a hole in the head.
I think they're nice, but mad.
I think more people need to read it, really.
It represents something that's not represented, you know, in this country.
I like the Crapperettes myself, I must say, they're great. Snooze is a good word, too.
Get shoes! Half a million words, yours for a fiver!
My daughter Alice was killed in May 1994. A driver lost control on a bend on a narrow country road, crashed into our car on our side of the road. She was never charged with Alice's death and was fined just £250.
We are here to give thanks to Almighty God for the huge benefits that the motor vehicle has brought to our nation, as well as giving employment to many thousands of people, not least in this city. For this, it is surely right to praise the God of creativity, ingenuity, and freedom.
Mother Earth, forgive us, the animals, birds, insects, reptiles. Mother Earth, forgive us, we are asphyxiating the generations to come. What is this worship of the motor car? It is a killing machine. You are killing each other and you are killing the next generation.
We're on a road to nowhere. That's why it's man.
Sorry.
Did you ever stop to consider the consequences of an action?
Now don't blame me, bud. I designed the automobile for the open roads of America.
Do we know where we're going?
No, not the slightest. We are about to be informed, hopefully, any minute now.
All right.
The word will go out and a street will be taken somewhere nearby.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Nice to see it.
What? What's the name now?
It's lovely, it's much better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be pissing it down and confrontational, and this is just how it should be.
Okay,
Relaxed and with nice music and nice people.
RCS, playing the streets.
Push it outwards, push outwards.
The government is engaged in genocidal practices or in repression or human rights abuses, then you shouldn't be helping it with its instruments of, you know, torture or weapons or whatever.
The hawks, as far as we know, are due to be delivered starting in January 1996 at the rate of 2 every month.
It's not enough when someone is dying to just write a letter to the person who is holding the gun or whatever. You, in a normal situation, you wouldn't accept that as the only way you can do things.
In February '94, I watched the documentary produced by John Pilger, Death of a Nation, and that had a very large impact on me. It had a lot of footage from East Timor and interviews with Timorese people.
When the Indonesians landed here, they began an operation that has been compared in its savagery with Pol Pot's takeover of Cambodia. Hundreds of people were gunned down in the streets, in schools, in shops, in their homes, in the hospital. Live grenades were thrown into houses. Women and girls were raped in front of their families. The Indonesian troops had been told that the East Timorese were communists and primitives who threatened the very existence of Indonesia itself.
If between now and when those hawks are ready to be delivered, nothing's worked, then at that final moment, I will be prepared to disarm them.
The only thing I can do to stop this deal is to actually disarm these planes myself.
I would want to transform that plane into something positive and creative that could be put to good use.
I'm going to hammer on them with this hammer, and I hope that that will inspire other people to do further non-violent direct action against the hawk deal. I'm not a Christian myself, and many other people who have done Ploughshares Actions aren't Christians, are any sort of spiritual, political or any other sort of background. So it's more taking this beautiful vision seriously and drawing inspiration from it.
On top of that, we can do that.
Well, something else I was actually going to ask people was about my parents, because I don't know. I mean, we've said it's okay to tell people close to us. I just want to give them an idea that I might be away for quite a while.
And I may be in prison for some time. And tell them all the important things. That you might be away for a long time in Her Majesty's dwelling, and that you're doing a direct action of some kind. And it's about the arms trade, etc. And you don't really need to have the specific words and places.
The fear of prison is used by the state to control us, to keep us not doing right actions that would make the world more just. And in that way, we are in prison in a way, because we aren't doing what is right. And by openly doing an action which makes us go to prison, we break this power of the state.
The defendants will be using it. I first heard about the action when I got a phone call from NG Zelta at 4 o'clock in the morning on the 29th of January saying, I've just had a phone call from Lotta and Andrea and Joe saying that they've just disarmed this Hawk warplane and asked us if we would do the support work and help with media.
Yes, I've got a crane to hang on the fence when I cut in to get in. It's a piece crane. I've got a hammer to hammer the aircraft. I've got my police statement, which is done by video, which is probably the first time that that's been done as a police statement, with the 4 of us on. I've got a booklet which explains the issues behind the Ploughshares action and what Indonesia's up to in East Timor. And I've got a banner which says "Stop Genocide in East Timor." Oh, and I've got a visiting card, which I shall leave in the plane.
Dear women, is it not just incredibly good that we actually got in and disarmed the apple green sweet death machine?
Sometimes I forget there was an action in between thinking about prison and being in prison, but it did happen. I miss you, my sisters, my movement, my co-hopers and resistors. When my sister was here, it came home to me that there is an end to it. I will be out one day, and I felt like laughing into the face of prison and British Aerospace and whoever else wants me in here.
By leaving the video in the cockpit of the Hawk and by referring to it in their police statements, the women made sure that it would be used as evidence in court and shown to the jury.
We, the undersigned, indict British Aerospace and the British government that on the 10th day of June 1993 they conspired to breach the Genocide Act and the Offences Against the Person Act by agreeing to the sale of 24 Hawk attack aircraft to Indonesia, in the knowledge that the Hawks will be used by the Indonesian military to commit murder and to further the campaign of genocide against the people of East Timor.
And there is no doubt in my mind that there is nothing that a Hawk aircraft can do to suppress the people in East Timor. It is not an aircraft that is suitable for that purpose, and we have guarantees from the Indonesians that they would not be used for internal suppression.
The Hawk can also be a frontline airplane, especially with the help of forward-looking infrared radar and night vision goggles for the pilot. Add to that a laser rangefinder for weapons delivery, radar warning, and flare and chaff dispensers for self-defense, and you have a frontline airplane, not just a trainer.
anyone had been in the court to listen to the women putting their case and defending themselves and being cross-examined, is the composure and the sincerity that they put into it, which can only be reckoned by knowing that they are prepared to do this and be apart away from their families for such a long time if need be. And I don't think anybody can ask for more commitment than that.
When we've come to court each morning, there have been silent and dignified ceremonies of different kinds. We've had silence for the people. We've called out their names when other people have refused to acknowledge their deaths and made them present.
Dorota de Silva.
Presente.
Isabel.
Presente.
Agapito de Deos.
Presente.
Domingo Pedaras.
Presente.
Jose Cudo.
Presente.
Manuel Gutierrez.
Presente.
What is the reason? What is the reason?
My own family, relatives were killed by Western weapons, so they cannot tell me that Western aircraft, Hawk aircraft sold to Indonesia are not used in East Timor.
On any of the charges, it's not guilty.
It was a day for justice and a day for East Timor. When the foreman stood up, I was just thinking, well, I prepared myself for several years in jail, and here it comes, and that's okay, because what we did was right. But then when he said, not guilty, and there was this huge gasp around the courtroom, and there was justice. I mean, justice, I think, is not that often done in British courts, and on this occasion it was, and it's tremendous.
We are changers, and everything we touch is change.
I wanted to try and create a tradition, a women's tradition, women's ploughshares tradition, so that partly to support each other, because it's the same is true for us, that we don't feel maybe that we can do it, but also for people who come after us to see, yeah, we can do it too.
If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, I'd hammer in the evening, all over this land. I'd hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, I'd hammer out love between my brothers and my sisters, oh, all over this world.
KTN News at 10 with Junior Somerville.
Questions were being asked today about why staff at a Kent playgroup failed to notice that a toddler had slipped out through an unlocked door. Nicola Golding, who's only 2, walked a quarter of a mile home, crossing 2 roads on the way. Her father said it just didn't bear thinking about. Our South of England correspondent Robert Hall reports.
Safe at home today, one lucky 2-year-old. Nikki Golding's parents had chosen their local playgroup for the security offered, but less than a week after starting there, Nikki was able to wander home through an unlocked door. Snodlands Community Centre lies close to several potential hazards. Dense woodland and steep banks surround a flooded gravel pit. After leaving the playgroup, Nicola found her way down the drive and out onto the road. She managed to cross safely and then walked 200 yards to a second road junction. Again, she negotiated the traffic to reach her home in the estate opposite.
How she got out there with a car, without a car, isn't it? I'll never know. It just doesn't bear thinking about, really.
I heard Mummy, Mummy. She's at play school. And I heard the banging on the front door, so I come through from the kitchen, went and opened the front door, and Nicola was standing there with a T-shirt and knickers on and her shorts in her hand.
Playgroup staff say they regret the lapse. The door had been left open by a member of the community centre's committee.
My mum admits that she left that door open for 5 minutes. It was an accident and she is extremely sorry.
Some parents have withdrawn their children, others maintain their support.
It was just an accident. It could have happened anywhere. If I had any worries about leaving my child here, I wouldn't have brought him today.
Tonight, Kent Social Services said they'd completed the first stage of their investigation. A review of security and safety here is now underway. Robert Hall, News at 10, Kent.
The Defence Secretary Michael Portillo has been in Bosnia today, visiting the British troops who helped keep the peace and see that the elections were as fair as possible.
This Spotlight website is a library of information about the McDonald's Corporation, all the things they don't want you to know, and all the things they've now failed to stop the public finding out about. They failed in the courts, they failed on the streets, and now this is the final nail in the coffin for their attempts to silence their critics. We're now launching the site, Mug Spotlight. There it is!
I think the original idea for McSpotlight came from the sheer volume of material and research that's come out of the McLibel trial, and also out of 20 years of anti-McDonald's campaigning, which was slightly being wasted before because nobody could see it, and journalists or researchers or campaigners, you know, there was no easy way for them to get the key piece of evidence that they needed. So what we wanted to do was create a library that anyone in the world could look at, that was free to use, and which contained all of the material in one place. So the only way to do this was to use the internet. All the people that work on McSpotlight are essentially amateurs who've donated huge amounts of time for free. When we've come across something we can't do, such as graphic design, complicated programming, someone with those skills has always come along that can do that. Even phone bills have been paid for by supporters. So McSpotlight's been set up without a penny being spent. You can only compare that with McDonald's spending $1.4 billion a year on advertising.
And there's now people from 14 different countries working on the project, using any equipment they can get their hands on. We tend to communicate by email, most of us have never actually met.
Well, there's no doubt this new form of campaigning can be effective. It's not supposed to be an alternative to the more direct forms of action, like, for example, at Newbury, but it's an excellent complement. The internet's the first time that grassroots activists have had a media where there's a level playing field with the multinationals and all their millions of dollars.
So far, the McLibel trial has had loads of press publicity worldwide, but it hasn't been about the issues. It's been about, you know, the people and them fighting a large multinational corporation. But what McSpotlight aims to do is to change all that, and so the issues come to the foreground and people are able to find out the truth.
There's a certain set of net gurus who argue that new media will inevitably bring the collapse of the multinationals, that they won't be able to kind of hold on or control things. I think this is rather optimistic. What the internet does do is give activists a really useful tool, which they'd be stupid not to use.
There's huge controversy raging at the moment about censorship on the internet, mainly centred around pornography. What Spotlight wants to do is realign this to a more important question. Should the distribution of information about matters of great public concern be controlled, and if so, by whom? Or should it be free?
The internet is the hardest thing in the world to police. It's proved to be extremely difficult for people to try and trace where alleged libels come from when it's spread through the internet. It's a worldwide site. If I was advising McDonald's, I'd just tell them to forget it.
You touch him and you're under assault! You're assaulting them!
The first News Unlimited was a real backyard production, basically. It was with a camcorder and a VHS video recorder, and it doesn't get much more simple than that. I think the main reason News Unlimited is doing the work that they're doing is to try and take a hold of the agenda a little bit more. The great thing about News Unlimited is that it's decentralised. It's a bunch of young, active people with camcorders on their hands, filming what they're doing, whether they're actions or ad actions or organising social events, cultural events, and then putting it all together into an exciting montage and getting it out there.
Basically what we've got is 3 26-minute programs every week, which are basically just activist programs, so they're completely dedicated to activism, really. And anything about activism, it can be like up to a 26-minute story on one activist issue, which is like the big one for the week or something like that. And so yeah, it's covered in extensive detail. You do come under the tyranny of having to produce all programs all the time, but it's that very tyranny which makes you do it and makes you produce as much as you do, and so it becomes like an addiction, and you just do it because you have to do it, and you keep on doing it, and you keep on running on that adrenaline.
myself as a bit of a media gorilla. I'm into sort of manipulating the media and utilising the media, computers, video, whatever, to institute social change and environmental change. So I had a fair bit of footage ready to go.
Dose the logger.
Dose the logger.
Dose the logger.
You know that the loggers' camp is unattended somewhere nearby, with a hot thermos of coffee for their morning tea. You have 5 sheets of very strong acid in your pocket. It's time to play Dose the Logger.
So I'm actually trying to get to the loggers' camp so I can put some acid
in his coffee. Yeah.
Acid in their coffee.
It's fairly extreme. It's fair. We don't really. I mean, we've got a disclaimer. We don't really recommend you do this.
But it's a great fucking idea.
It's a joke. You know, it's fun.
Okay, so I can choose. I can go.
Yeah,
different
north,
directions.
south, east or west. This part of the thing's all based on random, so it's totally unpredictable what will happen to you next.
Oh no! Full on. So I got fucking munched by a fucking redneck. New game. Shit, it's a mad dog logger with a chainsaw. Okay, let's go east. Ah, excellent. Choice is yours, to dose or not to dose.
Never seen a tree like that before. It's beautiful.
One guy was loading his own log truck with a bulldozer, and we decided that we'd blockade it, which we did. He came up the hill, and he had to come to a stop, had to leave his truck there, but he radioed out, and about half an hour later, about 14, 15 vigilantes arrived from the neighbouring sawmill.
Go boys, go. Yeah, all right, yeah, great. Fantastic. You feel really good. Yeah. Private property. Private property. Hey, Pulp, what are you talking about? Hey. You're burning pulpwood there. Hey. Dog in the bloody bush, you look at this thing.
I had to go up on top of a van. It was getting dangerous. Camera had already been hit once, so I climbed up on top of a van. Somebody gave me a block of wood for protection up there.
We'd like you to leave now, please. Okay. Righto. Righto, so could you please get in your cars and we'll shift ours and you can move out.
The logger vigilante leader had decided that he knew who our leader was. So he went to his van, the van that I was standing on, and the logger was actually going to get inside and try and move it himself, at which stage the owner of the car got in front of the door and the logger threw a punch at him.
Hey.
I'll fucking bash your brains in, mate. You understand?
Take it easy. I'll do it. Hey, stop it. Take it easy. Take it easy. There's no need for this. Hey, Retro. There's no need for this.
Get it on the video, mate. Get it on the video. We realised that we had the footage we needed to bring some attention to the logging in Mumbler. So we drove to Canberra, which is about a 4-hour drive, just directly. We'd already rung up the ABC and told them what had happened, and they're very interested in getting the footage.
Violence has spread to the wood chip issue. Conservationists blocking the road out of a state forest in southeastern New South Wales were assaulted today by loggers.
Conservationists filmed this encounter. It shows loggers throwing punches. And there were attempts to damage the camera equipment recording the incident. The industry makes no apology for its part in the incident.
And if we have to fight, if we have to physically confront those people who've opposed us for so long, then so be it. Maybe the time has come. And I just say to the people in the industry, if you're going to do that, use your common sense and make sure that it's not being filmed when you do it.
Environment Minister John Faulkner and Primary Industry Minister Bob Collins responded with this joint statement. The violent incident which took place in the southeast forests of New South Wales was deplorable. To have this violence condoned and actually encouraged by someone in a responsible industry position was even more deplorable. The largest timber company in the state announced it was resigning from Mr. Dauber's organisation.
People who belt people in the face ought to be charged. And people who encourage them to belt them should be charged too.
I think that alternative networks of distribution will grow and grow and grow in Australia as more and more people with energy start to put their ingenuity into working out ways to distribute. It's only getting bigger. It's the very early days now. It's the beginning in Australia, and if it's interesting, you know, it'll build up a watchership very quickly.
What we do is we write down all our different shots and all the things we think we want to put in the film, stick them on the wall so we can see them all and don't forget any bits, and then get our backbone ideas of the film, put them on the wall, and start seeing where we can put all the other bits. And it's really good because, as you can see it all, and it sort of takes shape in front of you.
So this is the first day of the first edit of Undercurrents 4.
Need people like you in the Labour
I think you hit the nail on the head there. The Labour's behind us. And that's the point. I think that we've taken the stage on and Labour's got a lot of catching up to do.
And I might be here making a little film for Undercurrents, but really this is step one in my plan for world domination and eco-friendly worldwide love revolution.
Nothing left to lose.
Right, take 14. This film tells the story of how one group came up against the Criminal Justice Act. Here is their story in their own words. When's the road music start?
Now, go. Give me that.
What's happening? There you go.
We're supposed to be producing Undercurrents 4 at the stage, but we decided to come out here and join in action.
Take that camera up your arse, mate. I want to get some petrol. Tell him to turn that fucking camera off now. Turn it off.
And now this.
Take those 2 bits off. Tell him to turn that fucking camera off now.
We've got the spontaneous pickets.
Can I explain why I'm so upset?
Yeah, go
on. My family hasn't been together for 4 years, and I missed the get-together this afternoon because you guys said you're going to be ready today, and that's why I came back. I haven't been together for 4 years.
Very difficult under pressure to say how long something's going to take.
I'm really upset.
The current state is that we have got 1/3 of the way through the list of the things which we need to do to get this thing out by tomorrow morning.
And it is now what?
It's 20. It's 20 till 1.
It's now 20 to 1.
Yeah, 20 till 1.
I don't think people have got any idea of how long it takes to do something. Like we've been working on this Undercurrents with people who've never made a film before, and they just think that they can just run it off in 2 days. You know, and it's simply not like that.
Yes, we almost have the end of Undercurrents 4.
Mailbox we go.
Grab big piles and let's go. You hold it open. Hold it open.
Copyright. Who put copyright on it?
Oh, Alan put it on.
Corey?
Alan put it on. I did not do that.
It's got copyright on it.
This is the hunt for the vodka. Vodka? Vodka. Let's freeze the part of the thing off, you know. It's been in the freezer for about 6 months. That's the way we like it. Hey, look, Hunt's gone. And Cherwell Street.
To the beginning and the end.
And the end and the beginning.
No, it's Matt, I want it. Oh, God.
Oh. So we haven't got the contract yet, and we've knocked down a wall, and we've painted the place, but we're negotiating. Give me a hand, George.
Of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act of 1994, and you are liable to arrest. Please stop obstructing or disrupting.
Why don't you stop trying to drive the buses through?
I don't believe in the Criminal Justice Act. It doesn't exist. It's unlawful.
Multinational corporations dancing on the ruins. Multinational corporations dancing on the ruins of multinational corporations. Ha, 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 ha. Say goodbye to plastic and goodbye to cars. No more convenience stores. Hello to stars. No more Wall Street and no more Pentagon. Thinking about these things makes me happy. We're dancing on the ruins of multinational corporations. Dancing on the ruins of multinational corporations. Dancing on the ruins of multinational corporations. Ha, 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 ha. Goodbye to polystyrene. We'll put it into the waste. There is no time for debating. We have to make haste. If we're going to survive without computer program minds, we're going to have to can pop culture. And say hello to campfires and stomping bare feet and naked amoebas hungry to eat. Hello to primal consciousness and love for the land now that coyotes are running the country. skyscrapers cut down, yes, we are coming for your children. Oh, we're dancing on the ruins of multinational corporations, dancing on the ruins of multinational corporations.